think I'm a bit of that myself, Spark.
You were definitely on the spectrum as a kid.
I said to me ma before, did you never get me assessed for ADHD or anything like that? She says, no, you wouldn't let us. She said,
You wouldn't stand still long enough.
He was a bit like that, actually.
Yeah. I think I do have a little bit because I find it very hard to stay still and be, like, even at home, I have to be doing something, you know what I mean? I have to be always, I can't sit in all day, you know? Damn. You?
Yeah, I've got ADHD, absolutely, 100%.
ADHD, they call it.
Yeah.
You know where there's a task, wash the dishes.
Yeah.
And then another task, make your bed. And then another task, have a shower.
Yeah.
So I'll do a little bit of every one.
Yeah.
So maybe I have 15 tasks and I'll break it all down and I'll do a little bit of that, little bit of that, little bit of that, and I'll just do it. Eventually it'll all get done.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of creativity vibe in that because I can be flexible with it.
Yeah. But you can't get it, you can't go one by one.
If I need to, I can. I've learned to do it.
Yeah.
Like if I'm editing this, for example, I can sit down for 2 hours and just go
do it, yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
I was seeing something online about it, but you know, with text messages, there's another thing kind of, in recent times, you'll notice people aren't writing back as much. I know that might sound funny.
Little love hearts now.
No, just not writing back at all. Like, at the minute, I do get, not loads of messages off people. It could be off you, it could be off yourself, it could be off March and me mar and that. And I find that I nearly have a fear opening messages sometimes because I find I could be giving myself more work or something to do or whatever it is. And I've spoken to a few people about it. And there's
like
a lot of people
an anxiety over it.
Don't know what it is, but even on Instagram, like sometimes I do see a message and it's like you get a kind of, oh no way, like, and they're not, someone could be saying well done, but you're kind of like, I've seen this thing online on Instagram about, it's about people having access to you all the time, and your mind is trying to stop that then, you know what I mean? Because nobody ever had access to you all the time. But now I find even with myself, you'll be getting certain messages off people and I wouldn't even open it, I wouldn't know what it consists of or what it might be. But I'm just like, I know, I'd leave it, and then a few days later I have the fear of writing them because I'm at leaving in 4 or 5 days. But if you talk to a few people about it, you'll spot it. Like, find a lot of young ones are like that. Maybe they're just not writing back to me in general. But no, it's a weird one, you know.
What's the tattoo?
Which one?
Over your watch.
Just flowers, and a song I had on my arm years ago, wrote Only Time Will Tell, and have it with fucking just a clock and flowers when I'm stupid. It was meant to be a sleeve. Loads of shite ones.
I've only one. I hate them, but I have one.
What is it?
It's the worst one you ever see it ever.
What's that? A lizard, is it?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. When did you get that? You must have been a kid, were you?
I totally
Still a fucking kid.
Yeah.
I was 35 when I got it done.
Were you, yeah?
I was, yeah, because I reckon I was halfway through my life.
Yeah.
And it was time to get a tattoo.
Get a lizard on my ankle.
yeah.
So you're telling me you've got about 10 years left?
Whoa, you didn't be mad on that me the other day. I was in A&E the other day for blood pressure, you know, and my ma said to me, you're lucky. And I was like, why am I lucky? She said, because like, you're nearly 60 and that's the first thing that's after happening to you. That's the first bit of...
That's mental. That frightened the bollocks out of you, though.
Well, if frightened the bollocks out, but my ma thinks I'm nearly 60.
Yeah,
I'm only 55, like.
I think it's mental that you're 55, Sparky.
Well,
you get away with 40.
No, it's gas and work. Like the kids say to me, what age are you, Sparky? I say 55. And they're like, no, stop messing.
I'm your real outfit.
I'm your granddad.
I might not have a logbook for you.
But they can't believe it. It must be got to do with the way I behave. It has to be, you know, because I just do be buzzing with them all the time.
That's the best way to be, though, isn't it?
And I understand their lingo. You know what I mean? I don't. So I'd be using words that they would use. The conversations are quite fluid. Yeah, and having the crack, I suppose, is part of it, isn't it? You know,
it is a bit of a weird one when you're like with your own dad or whatever. They don't really understand what's going on the street, like on street level. But someone that's working with kids obviously knows the slang and the words, the ins and outs. Like,
too much though.
Yeah, probably so.
Because you get lost a little bit in it because all the phrases and lingo, especially that he uses, is all what the kids use.
Yeah.
The Ray Corcoran part gets lost a little bit sometimes. You know, he's Sparky.
Yeah. Sparky is a young name though as well, isn't it? When you think
so? I don't know. I definitely use the lingo, and there's times. Like I was in my ma's gaff a few weeks ago, and Jennifer's friend was in, and she said, "How are you doing, Ray?" I said, "Fresh, yeah." She's looking at me.
You're 55.
Fresh, yeah. There's the other ones that the kids use. So they say, now this is a long time around, right? Swear. So you say to them, we're going to Hout tonight. Swear.
Yeah.
I solemnly swear on the Holy Bible. Swear. And then the other one is hardly.
Hardly, yeah.
Hardly.
I find another one that, do you ever notice people don't say I'm going to the shop? It's I'm going shop.
Go shop.
I'm going
Are you
shop.
going shop?
Yeah, you going shop.
Go shop.
Go shop.
Or just
yeah,
go
man.
shop.
Yeah.
So the young people say that they go, instead of saying, are you going to shop? They just go shop.
Yeah, and Scarlet.
It's like efficiency from the texting. They strip out all the words they don't need.
Yeah, when you're texting, you say Atin, like ATIN, instead of saying anything. Do you want Atin in the shop?
I know what he does say.
I don't say that, but I might start doing it now.
It's handy, it's much fast. And something, SEOIM.
Something, no, I don't.
Get out and get
So
something.
I was texting Dean one day, this is years ago, I texted him and I was going, yeah, let's do that and all, right? But I spelled the anal.
Yeah.
And he's like, is that a proposition?
Do you want to do? Do you want to go up there and all?
I thought you were going to say, do you want to go up to anal?
No, that's the way it looked.
Yeah, it looked.
Do you want to,
Anal, and all.
and all.
You just don't mind us getting footage, do you, for this? So we can get clips and all from it.
You can do whatever the fuck you
Deadly.
want. Here's the great thing about this: there's no rules. Let's
Brilliant.
have as much crack
yeah.
and fun and loose as possible.
Deadly.
Here, fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?
Ciarán Moran, thank you very much for coming in. Really appreciate it.
No bother.
We were meant to do this 2 weeks ago, but I had a few things happen in my life. A mate of mine passed away, and I found I didn't want to do it that week because it would have been kind of steeped in that. I wanted this today to be about Ciarán Moran, because Ciarán Moran is amazing.
Thank you.
Fuck me, you're amazing, brother. Honestly.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's weird when you're doing anything like this with people that you know. It can be a little bit more different because you're obviously you would have a better idea of the ins and outs of me than probably myself sometimes. To be fair, but
I bet you're shitting.
Well, I'm fucking terrified, Fergie. I'm terrified. I've done so many podcasts over the years and little interviews and that I do. And when you don't know someone, you can just express. But when you know people, you're a bit more shy to sell yourself in a way because you'd say, shut your mouth, you and go back in your
we're
box.
We're not into ripping the piss out of your like that. Like, truly, honestly, we fucking love you.
Thank you.
That's where we're coming from. If we have a bit of crack and there's a bit of banter, let it fucking flow.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Let it all bleed. Let it all hang out.
And I understand, like, I remember meeting you, you were 12, I think, when I met you, and you were in a youth club in Braddock. You were one of the first young people that I worked with, and you were extremely cheeky,
Yeah.
That was what I remembered about you. And very, very quick with a quip, but the thing that was always amazing about you was you were tiny. You were absolutely, like, a real tall now, right? But you were tiny. And you walked around the inner city with this guitar on your back, right? And it was amazing to see, like,
Yeah.
You had no insecurity about playing a guitar and singing,
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. When I used to have a guitar, I used to think to myself that, like, if I was going through town or anything, you always have a fear, like, of getting a guitar taken off you. But when I was that age, like when you're 13 and you're hanging around with young flits and all, you kind of feel a bit invincible in a way. Like, you feel like no one will take this on me, everyone and all that, So I'd be going around with the guitar on my back, and the guitar, it was like a cello on my back because it was that small. And I do remember it. I always kind of remember when I was that age, finding guitars heavy because I'd be carrying them in a bag. But I always remember that age, there wasn't many other people that did at my age around the area. Like, there wasn't many people that you could say, we'll grab the guitars and go down to wherever and have a buzz. There was a few people that sang, as you might remember, but not as much that came in with guitars, so it was very seldom you seen it. And I don't know whether people thought it was going busking or something like that when I used to be walking around,
But you had a bit of a history because your brother was in Angels. What would
No Angels, DC, yeah.
And that was what people said to me. That's Ciarán, his brother was in No Angels. So I kind of knew that. Darren Caffrey, he would have went around with the guitar. Yeah. Dwayne and Adam.
Yeah.
They had a band called First and Last.
Yeah.
And they had their first gig and it was their last. And
me and Brina as well had Harmony. Do you remember Harmony? The two of us, we got matching jackets. Do you remember matching cardigans?
That's true.
Came in and
Now hold on, were they jackets or cardigans?
No,
they were cardigans.
They were cardigans.
Yeah.
They
were grey cardigans and they had a yellow lining.
I remember.
Yeah.
That's right. He was there.
Upstairs in the macro we were.
He turned up in it.
Yeah. Did he? Yeah.
He turned up and there was loads of people there, and next thing somebody just lifted in a 2-seater couch, and he sat at the front.
That was the force. I always forget about that force room that we were in the macro. Like, I just remember that building being just stone. Everything was stone in it. If you look at it, I know all buildings are stone, but it just looked like a stone building in there. But that was actually the first time I ever played in my life. Now, I do say my first actual gig was the one that you would have gotten. I was with Damo that time, but my first ever, I suppose, singing in front of people was in there doing that. And we had a showcase, I think, at the end of, I don't know whether it was a songwriting course with Colm.
So you talk about two things, because this is, my memory's bad, right? But I do remember we had that day, that was a kind of a gig in the macro, right? And then we had another one, which was after, like, do you remember we were in Bolton Street College? That's where we were based, and Miles was there, Darren was there, you were there. There was a whole group of us, and we all wrote songs with Colm. And at the end of that, we had a showcase.
I think I do remember. Yeah, I remember the room we were in when we were writing. I can't really remember the building going into it.
It was in Bolton Street Tech. Yeah, it was deadly.
Great songs as well. I always say, like, back then when I was writing songs, like, I thought when you're writing songs, you have to write about the things that matter, like the love, the flowers, and things like that. And I never forget with you and Colm. Like, I think there was a time when I was saying, like, I was afraid of writing a song in case, you know, like, you're writing a song about drugs. And I remember, like, kind of having that thing, should I write about this, or would I be all right writing about this with you? I was like, and I think Colm as well, I remember kind of being like, write whatever you want, write anything. And I'd be going home thinking, geez, he's telling me to write about Ant, and I'm probably writing about wherever, and it's a bit shit. He might not give a shit of what I'm doing. But now when I look back on it, and I think to myself, when you hear pop music nowadays or wherever it may be, you can see that that was the best thing I was ever being told, because I don't care about what I write about. And I got to go back and do a songwriting course in Braddock last year. I was telling you, I done it with the kids in there. And it was one of the first things I was saying to the kids. Like, there was a young girl there, and she was about 15 or 16. You know, kids kind of, when you start talking serious to kids, they kind of take the piss a little bit, and I would have been the same when I was a kid, but I only realise it now if I'm doing that with them. And I remember the young one kind of laughing, and she was saying, like, she was writing a song about her dad and the Lewis. She had the word the Lewis and people slagging her, and she was using the slaggings in the song. She was saying, I can't put this, and her friend was saying, you can't use that word. And I says, you can use anything, use any word you want. But that's one of the biggest things that I actually thought they were just saying it to kind of not get you away, but, you know, like, I'd be asking, can I write about drugs? And they were like, write wherever you want.
Yeah, sure, you can write anything.
So I was thinking, like, they don't actually give a shit about what I'm writing about, you know, but actually it worked. I knew they did give a shit, and it worked wonders for me, because it's one of my strongest selling points, I suppose, would be my songwriting, of being honest and raw, you know.
But there was an amazing thing happened, and you wouldn't have seen it. Like, so we did this thing called Eurojam, which was out in Gormanstown boarding school out in Balbriggan. So we had a group from Sweden, we had groups from from Holland, I think, and from the UK, as part of an Erasmus thing. And so we went out to this boarding school, and we had 2 stages, and there was one songwriting group in one room, and you were part of that group, and there was another songwriting group in another room, you know, and they were all going between each other, you know. It was deadly. It was a jam. It was deadly. Yeah. But your voice was real high at the time. Like, your voice hadn't broken, you know. A lot of the young people that we had were younger, you know, and Finglas was there as well, because Mick was there. And Dean, remember Dean, the drummer who sang, he was savage.
David.
I always call him Dean. When I meet him, I call him Dean.
I actually joined that band after that. That was when I joined the group after Eurojam. That's how I met them. And I do. I remember loads from that trip. We were only talking about it recently with Darren and that.
But there was a fella who was like an engineer, right? He was this like I don't know, he was like a jet engineer or something, and he was on a gap year. He was from Greece or something like that, and he was a guitarist, but he was about 29 or something. And in Greece, he was still counted as a young person. And I remember him coming into me, and his English was bad, you know, and he was saying, the guy, and I was like, what's he talking about, right? But he was talking about you, and he was saying,
he's at the robbing me wallet.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, what's going on? But he was just mad about your songs. Yeah. And he just couldn't believe, he was asking me who wrote the lyrics, and I was saying he did, and they were like, no, he couldn't have. And I said, no, he did. And you actually had a very natural ability to write songs. And I mean, it's true in your, you know, you can see it now in your songs. But even from 12 or 13 years of age, you, without any effort, you know, we'd be starting to write a song, you know, call them and say, oh, that's a good groove there, let's get going. Right, Ciarán, give us a few lyrics, and you'd just be in with them, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you might, like, I remember one time we were trying to write something, and you said, look, I have a couple of lyrics that I was writing over the last couple of days. We were just blown away because of the depth of the lyric is one, but also your ability to fit it in or to rhyme or, you know, whatever it was just, it was just very natural, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know where that comes from. Like, I don't know whether it was from school or what it was from, but I think the big part of that was the not being afraid to write, because I think if I was afraid to write about certain things, I would have been limited then, and I wouldn't have been able to write them things. But yeah, I think for what I do and what I've always done with songwriting, like I find it as a way, I find it a way out of my head. Like, so if it's in my head, I find it as the only way out, kind of, you know. And not to sound too cliche or anything like that, but for me, years ago, I never appreciated it as a form of therapy or anything like that, because as a kid, and I didn't care about all that kind of stuff. I just used to think that, oh, I'm just writing songs, everyone writes songs like this. But now for me, if I'm having any sort of good day, bad day, whatever day it is, like, I can write a song and it's free therapy. It doesn't cost me. I can play the guitar and I get out of my head on it, if that makes sense, you know. And I'd be I sat in last night, I was writing songs last night for about 3 hours. I thought it was about half an hour, 40 minutes gone. And I was just writing. And when you're talking to anyone, and yourself, Sparky, as if you write songs and Dean, when with your friends, and you say to them, like, I'm going to go home and do a bit of writing. Some people say he's an oddball, you know, like there's something a bit wrong with him. But for me, that's something I do, and from being able to do that, it's given me some form of expression. And it's not to say I go home and I bawl my eyes out into the hole of the guitar, but it's more like if I'm feeling down, it just stops the world for me for a few minutes or for an hour or two, and I forget entirely what's going on outside. And it's a personal thing that I do think if anyone has that and they can use it as a form of that, it can get you away from madness very, very quickly, you know.
You sent me a voice message last week when my mate passed away, and the way you articulated yourself and your support and your understanding of it was fucking beautiful. And I think for me that comes from giving yourself the time to write songs and explore emotions and explore ideas. The way you phrased it was fucking beautiful. And it reminded me of what Sparky was just saying there. You know what I mean? Now, as a man, yes, you can write amazing songs, but also the thing that's really beautiful about it is that you're a really well-balanced man. You understand the world in a way that a lot of people only ever glimpse because they never exercise that muscle, that creative, emotional, artistic muscle which you're exercising all the time. And then you get to write a song, and then you get to perform.
Yeah, there's something about I find now with things like when I was speaking to you last week, like there's this big thing with everybody now that if you need a chat, give me a call, you know, and there's loads of that going on. I'd pride myself and I'd class myself, and I'd like to say that I'm an honest person. A lot of the time, I think that word that's used very freely. But if people do it, that's amazing. But for me, I do think to myself, for the sake of 2 or 3 minutes, whether I care or not about your situation, or you care or not about mine, for the sake of saying to someone, look, if you want to have a chat, or my thing is always making people laugh. I try to have a laugh and try joke, and I figured that my form of helping someone would be slagging somebody else or slagging and having a joke. So I'd say to like you or Sparky, if there was ever anything, and I'm sure it'd be the same way if it was me. If there's ever anything down, like, give us a bell and I'll give you a bit of a laugh, like I'll slag or we'll have a joke and whatever. And it's not saying like I'll pump my arms around your shoulders and say it's all going to be all right, but it's just my way of doing that. And I think 2 minutes out of your day can definitely help someone, you know. And even if they don't need it, I think there's a thing that knowing someone is there for a couple of minutes. And for me, I've been lucky in ways that I haven't suffered too much with things and in my head, and there has been times that I have, but I've always kind of tried to find a way out of it quickly before sulking and feeling sorry for myself, if that makes sense, you know, because I felt if I'd done that then I could get worse. But I have an enjoyment in talking to people, and I never nosy or anything like that, but I'm interested in what someone is saying, whether they believe it or not, you know. And for me to take 5-10 minutes to say, Dean, I hope you're all right, man, give us a bell anytime, we'll have a bit of crack, or if you want to go, I was saying to you a couple of weeks ago about going swimming, I'd love to go back, getting out, going swimming, just connecting with people, talking with people, and it's free, you know. And it's not, I don't mean that in a way of money, but for the sake of 2 minutes out of your day, you're probably saving someone 30 years out of theirs, you know.
It's free and it's freeing, and yeah, it's stunning. So thank you very much.
No problem, man.
And when you rocked up here to do this podcast today, you had a big smile on your face, and I just went, fucking hell, this is amazing, because I remember talking to you a few years ago and you were like, I'm done with the music.
Yeah.
My head's wrecked with this. This is not meant for me. And now you're in front of us, and you were in front of us when you were a young boy.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely journey there. There's a lovely journey. So maybe let's go back to the start of it, when music or creativity or writing came into your life. What was the first moment you remember, or the first inspiration?
I think obviously my brother would have been a massive inspiration for me as a kid. Like I remember him, like for the want of a better word, being kind of famous years ago, like having success, and they were playing big youth shows and that. But something I always say, like, and I don't know what, like with Sparky, like I don't know much I've ever said it directly to him, like, but for me personally, with Sparky and Colm Kearney, and it's not blowing smoke because I'm sitting in front of me, you could listen to me last 10 things I've done. I don't think I'd ever have written a song only for that, for the youth club in general, but for the classes that they ran. And I remember at the time there was loads of people at the start, and then it kind of fizzled out, and the people that were left still have some sort of, like the Luggins of Darren and all, they're still involved in some way with it, and myself, and I know Dwayne was doing a bit as well, and I know he's not doing it as much, but he's still driven and has that kind of push and drive.
He's running a running
He's
thing,
doing the running club, yeah. But he was brilliant years ago. Like he was amazing. He was just a great character, you know what I mean, and well capable of doing something with music if it was, because he's a driven bloke, you know.
Did he go on to X Factor?
Yeah,
he did.
Yeah, he did indeed. Yeah,
I heard him talking to the two boys on Talking Bollocks the other day.
Recently,
Were you hanging around with him? Were you?
Yeah. I would have been around with Dwayne, and there was a good few of us, like, but there was only a select few that went to not to the youth club, but to this particular class. I think it was on a Saturday morning, Sparky, if I'm right. It might have been.
So the songwriting thing with Colm was a summer program for a week, and we did it in Boughton Street. And I know Colm did another thing as well with us. That was like a weekly thing, yeah.
Yeah,
and
I think I remember there was something on it every Saturday morning for some reason, and definitely when we went into Braddock, and I'll tell you why I remember being in Braddock, because I got thrown out one of Colm's classes one time for not class. I got thrown out the thing for just saying something wrong at the time. I was immature, like, but I said something, and I remember him kind of throwing me out. And never forget it. Like,
the thing with Colm was that he's real gentle. Like, he's a real gentle.
Yeah,
but he has this thing where, you know, if you really act the bollocks, he'll just say,
yeah,
go on.
And I think I did. I definitely went over the line, but wherever I done. But I remember that was in the new Braddock building. We done them classes, and then I suppose Sparky got me the first gig with Damo. That was at the time, and I always say this, and I never say this I do always try to say this in a very respectful way, but at the time I didn't really know who Damien Dempsey was, because as a kid I was 13 and I would have heard Sparky talking about him, but I didn't know him the way I know him today and the way everyone knows him today. And he got me a support slot, and then I started listening. But funny thing about that thing, I remember years ago I got little posters done up, and you was done them in Braddock for me when I was doing the support, and I put them in the school. And in the school there was people that says, I don't know who, or no one knows who that is. Like, it was kind of like you muppet putting up pictures, no one knows who you're even on about, you're putting up posters or whatever. And one of the people that I never forget saying that asked me about getting free tickets for the last time I supported him. Genuine. But I suppose I would have gone into the youth club, done the songwriting, and then I was just getting little opportunities. The youth club, Sparky again, through them classes you got. I was on to the Christy Moore with Fighting Words down with Roddy Doyle.
You're a jammy bastard.
And it's some mad experiences that I got.
So you were gigging with Dempsey at 13.
Yeah.
You were getting songwriting workshops from Colm Kearney. You done Christy Moore, was it, or Christy Dignam?
Christy Moore.
Moore in Fighting Words.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
And you were still only young.
Yeah, I was 13, like, and a young 13 as well.
Because I've heard you talking about this on other, chats or radio interviews with Miriam. I heard you on, which is fantastic, because I loved the way, she embraced you. It was great. Like, your appreciation of the effort and support that you got from youth centres, especially Braddock, which is a youth centre down off Dorset Street. I know your area went through fucking hell a number of years back when the Kinahans and the Hutchins were slaughtering each other. And similar has happened in Ballymun, up in Drogheda, Cherry Orchard, Limerick, and they're pumping money into youth, or pumping money into programmes to kind of get communities re-energised. And one of the things I was thinking when you were talking to Miriam was, can we get them to spend fucking millions in this type of stuff?
Yeah.
In podcasting, in songwriting, in
creativity,
any type of stuff, dancing, singing, and let young people just get lost into that rather than getting lost into fucking vapes or weed or ketamine or gas or balloons and all that type of shit, you know?
I think the youth centres for me, and I still don't think the like of yourself, Sparky, or yourself, Dean, will ever realise it when you think of what you've done. Like, but I just a very, very quick thing, and I never really spoke about this much, but I went over to New York a couple of weeks ago to play, but they done an article on us the day of, a few days before it was out, and there was a fella that I used to hang around with in town, and he never went to the youth clubs. I don't remember ever seeing him in the youth clubs anyway. But I can't say it was the youth clubs that made the difference either. Different paths in your own kind of journey. But anyway, I done this thing. I was going off to New York, and they done a write up in the Irish Echo over in New York about us coming over and that. And I never had that before, but it was amazing to see that. But there's this thing when you have a write-up anywhere, it goes onto this kind of world newspaper, even if it's the smallest thing, like the Dublin Northside People or something like that. It'll go onto this thing called BNN or whatever. But the same day I was in that paper, it came up on Google when I Googled Ciarán Moran in New York, because it was meant to be on the Irish Echo, and I was looking for the article to get a photo for the Instagram or whatever it was. And I looked at the thing, and then someone messaged me and says, "Do you see this fella that's getting locked up today? He's doing this years for he was caught with weed or whatever it was." And we grew up, we could have gone the exact same route together. And on the same day there was two completely different routes we took. One was going into Mountjoy and one was going to New York. And it's not a, I'm better than you kind of thing. It was more of a, if you open your eyes and realise, like, there was no difference with us two, you know. We grew up on the same roads, not the same road in general, but we grew up on the same roads. We hung around together for years, and good friends, only chatting a couple of months ago as well. And it's a weird little thing that you have the option of taking a different route, you know. And I think for me personally, I always say, I think youth clubs were massive for me. Like I said this recently, you can go, kids want to be out with their friends all the time, and youth clubs giving you your dinners and stuff like that. You much prefer to be eating your dinners with your friends than you do be with your ma and dad. And that's what it's like as a kid. You much prefer to be playing games and doing projects and having a laugh. I was a serious messer when I was a kid, like and I still am a little bit, but I've quieted down a good bit to what I was. And I don't know whether from back then people would take me as serious because I was so much of a messer then, you know. But for me, I kind of opened my eyes a little bit and realised that, do you know what, I am actually probably worth a little bit more than what I thought I was. You know, I'm not just someone that messes, and like I used to always feel like I was just a filler in the gang or a filler in the crowd that I hung around with. Whereas now I do feel like I probably make an impact on somebody if I can say to them, why don't you take up a guitar and have a buzz with guitar lessons, or go on to YouTube, or wherever it is, you know. And I think the youth club was a massive thing for giving me guidance with that, in terms of, they never sat down and said, "Ciarán, don't do this or don't do that." But they understood me much more than any school teacher ever understood me. And they understood all my friends as well. And I think that's what was special about it, you know. And I think for kids in general, sometimes people are a bit too cool to go to youth clubs, or they think they're too cool to be going in and doing things like that. But I know what it's like to have a laugh and have good laughs, and probably some of the best laughs I've ever had have been on trips and being involved in youth clubs in town. And that's not just because the two of you have been involved with youth clubs. I'd say this anywhere, it made a big impact for me as a kid, 100%.
I hear you saying it, like, you know, youth work is not something that's very, very easily quantified, you know what I mean? So when I'm doing a group, it's very hard to write up what happened, you know what I mean? Because a young person that's saying to you, well, I was, you know, I was empowered in that situation or something like that, you know? Whereas I'm always bumping into people, and like, it was in IKEA last week, and there was a young man from the area. He came over to us, and he just couldn't have said anything nicer about the interventions that we had in the Reco, you know. And myself and Dave worked in the Reco at the time that he was there as a young man, you know. And he was just so, and he was able to articulate what youth work gave him, you know. And it was deadly, you know. And I think if there was a way of documenting that, which is probably too late because he's 10 or 15 years out of youth clubs, you know. Just going back to yourself, I always had an ambition for you, you know. I was always thinking, this guy's great, like, you know. And I remember meeting you, and you were in bands and you were doing stuff, and I even went in to see you one night in
Grand Social,
and you were playing, and I was like angry. Again, I was like, why are you in a band? You know, because you've so much more to give as a solo artist, I thought, like, you know. And then you start doing it, you know. And I was just like, even to this day, I'd be blown away. And we were at the Sugar Club, like when we did the podcast for Palestine. I asked you to come in, and fair play to you. You come in, and it was a mishmash of a night, but you absolutely pulled the night together at the end, you know. And you sang that song. Everybody was blowing the lamps out at the end of the night. I was kind of looking around going, why is everybody crying, you know? Your songs do draw emotion. They do draw something deep from people, you know, because I remember even when you wrote the song Mother, is it called Mother?
Yeah.
And you sent me the video about that, you know, and I think we were talking about the video beforehand. You were asking me, did I know anybody that would, you know, get involved or whatever, but you know, the songs they're deep and they're apt, you know, as Tina said, they do reflect today, like, you know, they're kind of, they're like a mirror of, you know, of what's going on today. But the other thing that, and I wanted to ask you about is, you always, your media is always really, really cool, right? Because I remember you made a video up in the north.
Oh, yeah, it was, in the flats.
In the flats, right? And I was kind of going, this is super, like, and even the video for Mother, like the young on the BMX and all, it's really good, you know what I mean? And your media is really, really sharp. And how did you get into that? Like,
I suppose I started taking myself more serious with it. So, like, for a while I would be, like, if I was doing videos or if I was doing anything, I would, instead of looking for the cheapest person to do the job, I started thinking to myself, okay, well, I have to start going to the best studio to record in that I can find, or the best producers. And the same with the videographers. So I started looking for videographers that were like top quality, instead of going to someone that'll do it for €200, saving me money and saying, right, I'll pay 7 and get it done over 2 days. Then with the likings of the music videos, I'd always have ideas of what I'd want to do. I wouldn't have plans on travelling too much with. I was in Belfast, Toronto, 4 days for that video, for the It's Okay video. And I wouldn't have much plans of travelling loads for it. But I think it's just about putting effort into it and taking it more serious than just saying, okay, we'll get a videographer to come out and do a video in the park of us just standing there and doing that, because the music is there, but you have to put everything else, even the artwork. I'd spend time thinking about what I want to get from it, what vision I want people to take from it as well, you know. And I suppose I just try to take it as serious as I can and work with the best people that I can. So instead of putting out 20, so I'm not like, there's some artists that'll put out 100 songs in a year or 20 songs in a year. I'll put out 3 or 4 maybe throughout a year, but the 3 or 4 that I'll put out, it's quality over quantity, you know.
Yeah, that's very clear, like, you know, that the stuff that you do put out, I'm sure you give it 100% because it's quality stuff, you know. And I think you also, you do social media well. Now, I suppose the negative of that is that you are constantly contactable, you know. That can be difficult unless you put the phone into the press when you come into the gaff, you know.
That's one of the hardest parts, I think, of doing the whole, we'll say there's an admin side of it where you send music off to promoters or wherever you're trying to do. The hard part is the content parts that I find, okay, I have to find, because most of everything that's on my Instagram or Facebook is something to do usually with music. And I'm not doing something with music every minute of my day. So some days I'm thinking, what do I post or what will I put up? And I try to kind of keep it updated as much as I can. And believe it or not, like, there's a good few people that have said to me, geez, you're good on the owl, you always have posts and videos and all that up. For me, I do actually think I'm falling behind here. Everyone's on TikTok and they're doing dances and they're doing this. I just wouldn't do that kind of stuff, you know.
Don't do the dances.
I will not, Sparky, not a chance. I tell you, I might be able to write a song, but I certainly can't.
You had us all dancing at the Grand Social a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I actually got a video of you.
That was some crack.
Yeah,
I went in and before it, I had a blackout a couple of weeks before drinking. So I decided I'm not drinking anymore. Yeah. So I went in totally sober, and Darren Carfrey was in there, and Tony from Echo Chamber, who's now your number one fan girl. Yeah. He was in there, so we was just having the crack with them.
I got a video back of him, Darren, and I don't know, it was Jamie or something like that, and they're doing in-sync dancing in the middle of a song, you know, and I have footage from it, like, and I was looking back, I said, the mad thing, I think I was singing a sad song.
No, you weren't singing a sad song at the time, but you were encouraging people to dance.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen you perform in a while, and it looks like you're playing around with different ideas, different tempos, different styles of songs, and I was like, oh, what's he gonna fucking do now? A country song, or you know what I mean? It was great to see her be free and have that freedom that you talked about before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not be tied down to other people's expectations. Of you know what it is to put on a gig.
Yeah.
It was a tough sell because it was the night before Paddy's Day as well.
Yeah, it definitely was. And it was one of the only ones that I've had to properly push, and I started thinking, oh no. And the promoter said to me only about a week or two before, they said, the problem is the night your gig and the night after your gig, there's free gigs on with big artists up in Collins Barracks for the St. Patrick's Festival thing. I was saying, well, we try get the gig as a part of the festival or something like that. And then I said, no, we'll just go for it and just try push it. We done well. It was a great show, and the promoter were very happy with it afterwards. They were in at the show and listened to the show, and first gig that I've done with a headline under themselves, where they seen it for themselves as well.
And you had a full band.
Yeah.
Like that's not cheap.
No.
I remember talking to Damien, and he showed us like a breakdown from Sinead O'Connor of the costs of putting on gigs.
Yeah.
And it was like ridiculous, the amount of money that goes out,
you
know, to pay people for rehearsal spaces, to pay the band, transport, grub, all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I suppose it's what you want from it, you know. But like, for example, like there's loads of gigs I've done where I've lost out, like not lost out into the gig itself was more money than I could ever get, because I got more of a buzz from that than I get off any euro would make of it. But there's been gigs that I've done where I'd be taking money out of my own pocket to pay the band. That's fine for me, you know. If it's a case, I could go out on a night out and I'd pay that anyway, and I get the same.
Well, surely you have to manage it, because if you're doing, I don't know how many gigs you're doing a year. How many gigs you plan on doing a year?
I'd be usually doing 2 or 3 a month. I'd say like one every. I'd usually have 2 or 3 shows on a month. Sometimes
that's
more,
a big old bill.
It is. A lot of the shows I would do. There'd be a lot of shows that I do solo as well, that like support gigs and things like that. But the headline shows I'd probably do 3 a year or 2 a year if I would. And it's there's obviously costs, and then like that would be hectic. The most expensive stuff is actually the recording and all, like, and some studios you're going into. Like, I was getting a price recently to go in and do a single, like, and it was like $850 for the day for the studio, and then you pay $350 for it to be mixed, and then if you want to get a mastered, I think it's 50 or 60 extra then, and like that kind of thing. It's hard when someone says, why don't you have an album out? Yeah, it's hard to put, like, 5-10 grand wouldn't get, it'd probably get you a half decent album, but you'd be kind of limiting yourself, you know, depending on what you have. So for me, I'd be kind of say, I have like a music fund, so any gigs I do where I get paid from it, or we'll say I'm in the positive, I have a separate bank account just for music fund, so I never use that for holidays, or don't use that for whatever. I wouldn't use it if I want to buy new clothes, or even clothes for a gig. I'd use that that goes off recording, or it goes off something. I wouldn't always make the cost, but like say a session is 800 and I have to pay 500, I have 300 in the bank, so I'm only putting 5 in. So it's just kind of balancing it, you know. But I suppose, again, it depends what you want from it, and if you want to do it, we'll say cheap, you can, and it's, with creativity and music, you can do it amazing in the smallest budgets. But for me, I think I put enough effort into the songs, I put enough effort into my thoughts of what I want out of it, and I don't mind kind of investing in it, because I think, for me, I've never done it for money, and I never will do it for money. But I know there has been times that I've made money from it as well, that it can be there if I could go out and do cover gigs on the weekends and make money and that, but it's just...
Do you work as well?
Yeah.
You have a job?
I work with a charity at the minute, yeah. So I do that I kind of work like a flexi time shift, not flexi, so it wouldn't be every day in the office, it would be... And
if you could do this as a career, if you could earn, $2,000 a month doing it, would you do that?
I'll never, no, I don't think I'd have an interest in fully doing music, but I think I'd want to be working in some way, even if it was a day or 2 a week. I think I'd lose my mind if I was doing it. I'd lose my focus.
Because I was going to ask you, when's the tour? When's the 20-day tour?
Yeah.
Is that going to happen? Or
that's definitely in sight. And look, if it's a case that I was offered a tour, like a support tour or something, that's more than likely what could happen next, where I'll do a support tour, like maybe outside of Dublin and Ireland. And if that happened, I think where I am, they'd be very accommodating for me to do that, and I could work around it. And I'd be kind of like, I'm going off to New York at the end of the year, and I have time to do that. Like, I've asked about it, and there's not really
What's the New York thing?
I'm doing 4 nights in New York in October. I was asked to go back over, so I'm going to.
Who's that for? Or
I'm working with. There's a promoter over there, and I'm doing. It's just 4 different dates, like 4 headlines. The last thing I done was Crackfest over there. So this is my own shows over in New York. So when I was over there, I was offered to if I want to come back over, and
are they solo?
yeah, they'll be solo. So I'll travel over. I don't know who's coming yet. Maybe some of my family and that. But the last time I went solo, and I was a bit mad.
What you mean?
It was just a mad trip. It was very surreal, and I had a lot of that kind of imposter syndrome where I didn't feel like I knew I was kind of, as I was doing gigs in Dublin and going on, I knew I'm kind of capable of doing it in Ireland and doing it in Dublin, but you're going to New York, you start feeling in your head, I shouldn't be going to New York, you know.
Bro, as soon as you step off the plane in New York, you're exotic. You're what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I didn't think that. I thought I'd be going over here and, you know, like you see people in the subway and they're singing and they're masterpieces, and I'm thinking, I'm going to go over here and people are, I didn't feel like I was good enough. I was at
They've
that
never
level.
met a fella like you from the flats.
No, and after it, we had a conversation about this earlier on, myself and Marchie, and we were talking about after New York, it gave me so much confidence to, like, there was a fella over there, he owned 5 music venues over there, and he told me to, like, he said, go home and have a think about whether you'd be interested in moving over and staying over for a bit longer now. We'd be interested in working with you over here if you were doing that. And it wouldn't be, I don't know whether I'd be working, I don't think it's about working a day job, it's still music, you know. He works with promoters and he owns the venues. So little things like that, it gave me a sense of confidence that
I'm going to give you a confidence booster now. Are you ready? So the song that you wrote is It's Okay is going to feature in a film.
Yeah.
And that film is going to go all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird even hearing.
And nobody has heard that before right now. And me saying it, I've got chills saying the fucking thing.
Yeah.
The song that you wrote that I bawl me fucking lamps out to is in a feature film that's going to play in cinemas and hopefully on Netflix all over the fucking world.
Yeah. It's crazy. Was it I was broken? Was it I was hopeless? Or was I just a voiceless boy and went unnoticed? And was I messed inside, hoping you'd realize I'm in the middle of a war between my heart and mind? It's not okay to do it all alone. It won't matter where you're going once you have a hand to hold. If your days they're darker than you'd hoped, find yourself a light and you won't see these ghosts. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to feel alone. Now that I've changed my ways, I think of better days. 'Cause a rope was only gonna take my pain away. And I'm too strong a boy to make a stupid choice. I could have gave it all away just because I was afraid. Oh, it's not okay to do it all alone. It won't matter where you're going once you have a hand to hold. If your days they're darker than you'd hoped, find yourself a light and you won't see these ghosts. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay to feel alone. It's not okay to do it all alone. It won't matter where you're going once you have a hand
have to hold if your days are darker than you'd hoped. Find yourself alive and you won't see this ghost. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay to feel alone. Feel alone. To feel alone.
That song personally helped me so much, just to feel the feelings, feel the emotions. For me, there's so much freedom and humanity in it that it's so fucking okay. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. You know, because sometimes we fucking whip ourselves and we just set ourselves up for failure, and we're the biggest fucking dopes and cunts in the world.
Yeah.
You know, we look at other people going, I wish I had his life, or I wish I had a fucking faster car, or bigger house, or better family, or...
It's expectations. That's the big thing. And I spoke to someone recently about it. You always put your expectations on yourself, you know. I have to have kids by a certain age. I have to have a house. I have to have a car. I have to have all this kind of thing, you know. But that's what drags you back. And for me, at the time when I wrote that song, I've never really wrote a song directly about how I felt, you know. And at the time I was feeling a bit muck, you know, and feeling just kind of fed up. And you know, this thing where everyone talks about, like, there's the mask people have and they're sad behind the mask. When people see me, anyone sees me, I'm smiling, you know. But I was going to bed all the time and I was feeling just low, and not too deep in it, but I was going to bed thinking to myself, I'm really unhappy, and I can't really say it to anyone because I'm meant to be this, not a macho, I'm far from a macho person, but I have to be this kind of funny fella that's how it is. And I was trying to write an EP at the time, and I was putting pressure on myself about writing these songs. I'm not able to write anymore the last few weeks. I'm getting writer's block and all this thing. I was putting pressure on myself, and one morning I woke up, I was going out to a camping trip actually, and one morning I woke up and we were kind of in a bit of a rush, and I woke up and that line, was it I was broken, was it I was hopeless, the exact melody and all, I'm not trying to sound weird, but that line just came into my head, and without the guitar as well, which was strange because sometimes I do have the guitar when I'm coming up with melodies. And the song I wrote in easily 10 minutes, you know, it wasn't far off 10 minutes. And I know there's some people would say, well, it's just 2 words, it's okay, like, but the whole song just came together very quickly, you know. And I had the voice noted onto my phone, and I said, I'm going to write this and record it, fully finish it and record it. And then I was a bit afraid to put it out because I didn't want people thinking I was doing it to try and be involved in the whole kind of thing of mental health and that now, and so I was just doing it for bandwagoning reasons or anything like that. But then I thought to myself, again, going back to what we said when we were kids, I don't care what other people kind of think about what I write about or anything like that, and I put it out. And the amount of people that, like, there's a lot of, like, as you said there about watching other people, like, you're watching other people and seeing the lives that they're living. They're in Ibiza and they're in Spain or in America and they're having the best time of their lives, and you're sitting in a bed with bleeding pillow that looks like it'd walk out of the room after you know what I mean, 2 minutes later. And you're looking at these lifestyles and you're saying to yourself, why am I not doing that, putting expectations onto yourself? But the messages I was getting off those kind of young flits that I would have probably sat around and looked at and thought to myself, jeez, that's some life they're living. And the message that they sent to me, I never felt like as bad as that in my life. And I thought to myself, the amount of people that's hiding this stuff, or at least it looks like they're hiding it, you know. It's worrying in a way, you know, and it's, because as I said, there's a big thing now about people speaking about how they're feeling and talking about it. And I know people that would post on Facebook and post on Instagram, give me a ring anytime you need it. And I know if you rang them, they'd have as much interest as the man in the moon, so to speak. Some people will say it for the thing, and that's just me being honest. Not trying to push it back or anything like that, but there are people out there that will give you time to listen. Myself, Sparky spoke recently just about listening. That's a power that some people don't have. And for me, trying to say to somebody, look, I know there's a cliche thing of everyone saying, look, if you need me, I'll listen, but I will actually listen to you if there's something that you're feeling down with, and I'll try and make you laugh, and I'll slag your brothers and your sisters and your ma and your dad, and you can slag me back and we'll have a laugh. But laughing is kind of, for me, laughing is a way, another form out for people when you can't relate to them through music or something like that, you know. And the amount of people that are kind of you'd never expect it with them. And they always say, like, with mental health, it's the people you don't know about, and it's the people that are not always they're always buzzy and having a laugh. But for me, getting met, some of the messages I got back on the back of that song were crazy. Like, you'd never ever expect it with these people. They look like they're living the life of celebrities, and for me, I'm the opposite. I'm living the life of a celebrity on lemonade wages, So,
You sound fearless, more fearless than you sounded a few years ago when you were on to me and Sparky going, I think I'm done.
yeah.
So there's a journey from when you got all the lucky breaks from the demo gigs to the Christy Moore stuff to being in a couple of bands, then to your head being wrecked and your heart being fucking broke.
Yeah. I think a big thing for me was opening my eyes to what you can kind of, like, and for anybody, like, to what you can give, knowing what your worth is, kind of. It took me a while to find out what my worth was. There was a time when I always thought to myself, I'm just, as I said, a wall, a gap filler. Like, when I had gangs of mates, so I was never the important one, or I was never really the one that the first one people would go to, or the luckiest one with the girls, or anything like that when I was a kid. And then I thought to myself, as I was kind of starting to find myself, and obviously you go through relationships, you meet new people all the time, and I found my worth, and I thought to myself, I'm worth more than being just that filler, I don't get into trouble, and I don't do anything really wrong. And not to say, I'm not trying to sound like Padre Pio, but I know I'm not the person that should feel forgotten about either. And that helped me massively with music. I lost so much confidence with music for years because of my voice. I never thought I was strong enough. I still feel like I'm working on it. But
just like the quality or the strength of your voice?
Strength, quality, how I use it. I'm still finding it, as I said, and still always trying to improve it. And I will do exercises and whatever it takes. I go to singing lessons and things like that. But I lost a lot of confidence, and I suppose just I found it a little bit. And I've never been cocky in my life, because I know the people you grow up around, and like the likings of yourselves. If I went out and I was cocky tomorrow on RTE, you would say he's not really like that, But I'm much more confident now, and I feel like I have a little bit more to give than I did when I was a kid, And that was something for me to realise. And I suppose with confidence, it can be for everything. It can be the jobs you work in. It can be the music, the gigs you do. I obviously knock myself sometimes, like everyone else. I obviously feel sometimes that I'm not good enough for certain things, like I spoke about in New York. But I'm confident that I'm a decent person, and that I'm honest, and I've a lot of respect. I think one thing I do have is respect, especially for my family and my ma and my dad. And for me, that's something that's important to me as well. Being just knowing the worth of others as well. Like knowing for my ma, like I respect my ma a lot, because she never put a worry on me in my life. We might not having everything when we were kids, or having the best of things when we were kids, but she never said to me, we could be thrown out of this house on a Wednesday. Even if we were getting thrown out, she'd never put worry on us or anything like that. And now that I'm a bit older, I appreciate things more. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Same with youth workers. And I remember having a conversation about youth workers, as saying, like, I only realised in recent years that youth workers are actually going out their way to benefit somebody else's life, like nurses and like teachers. And someone said to me, yeah, but they're all getting paid. And I said, yeah, but they could be paid to be a builder, or they could be paid to be doing something else, or paid to be doing something that, wherever it may be, a different role. But they're actually doing it to help people.
Yeah, our constant thing in our head is what opportunities and options can I put in front of this young person to improve or change the trajectory of their life.
Yeah.
So that's just something that we do naturally every single day, and we'll always do it. And not that it's effortless, but it's just what we do.
Yeah.
You write songs.
Yeah.
You perform gigs.
Yeah.
And we just see every young person, and some adults as well, as here's somebody that I might be able to give a dig out and steer them. And it's because we've got those options and opportunities, and it's steered us in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like I grew up in Ballymun in the fucking 80s.
Yeah.
I could have fucking done all types of crazy blatant shit. But that guy sitting in front of us, Sparky, gave us some options and opportunities.
Yeah.
But that was freely given to me. And I think I see youth workers, I don't see youth workers as professionals. I see us as practitioners. And I probably said this on the podcast before. You see people who are professional, like maybe, and I'm not knocking social workers or teachers or like that, because I think they're noble professions. I couldn't be a teacher. It's not in me. I probably could have went to college and studied and became a teacher if that was what I was into, but it wasn't. I had an amazing experience as a young person in a youth centre. And the youth centre I went to wasn't a normal youth centre. It was run by a religious group. The people who ran that youth centre had compassion and tolerance and loads of other values that were consistent enough for me to want to do that as a career. Now, I was lucky. I got in the back way. I went on a teamwork game, and when I turned up the morning of the teamwork game, the nun who was running it came in and she said, the supervisor's not coming today, so Sparky, you're the supervisor, you know.
There's a job for life.
There's a job for you now. And I took it. I took that responsibility. And I was only a young fella. I was only about 18 or 19 maybe. And I loved that. We were working in a centre with the most marginalised young people, you know. I actually met one of those the other day, outside Lidl the other day. I was chatting to him, you know, and he remembered it. Now, he wasn't in a great state when I met him, you know, but he remembered what we had done for him, like, you know. And it wasn't much. You know, it wasn't much, guys, you know, it was...
I think, though, Sparky, when you say, like, it wasn't much, for me, when I look back, like, I feel like, for myself, like, yourself, and there was a good few, like, in Bradog especially, like, and Deco as well, like, but you kind of went out your way a little bit for what we were doing and what to kind of benefit us. And although that might have been a normal day of work for you, but for us to feel like when we were going into school, we're getting in trouble for talking the way we're not talking the way we're talking in our accents, but talking about what we're talking about. Whereas when we go into the youth centre and say we're at being out drinking or whatever, they'd say you shouldn't do it. Like a teacher would say, we're ringing your ma, we're going to tell not the police, but you know what I mean, they're real official about it. Whereas you go into youth centres, they're kind of, they understand what you're doing, and they won't. It's not that they'll say, look, we'll ring the police if you do it again, but they'll guide you. And I think someone understanding and talking to you, you relate much more, and you can go into the youth centre and course and say, I'm at being out with boards, I'm only 13, I'm at being out with these boards, and we're out kissing or whatever you're doing.
Yeah, we're in a much more privileged position because we have a bit of freedom and a bit of crack, and you know what I mean. We don't have to be professionally warm, you know, and treat you in an official kind of way. We can just fucking chill out, slag you, course with you, bleed, and do mental shit. But it's about getting that vibe with that young person, because what I've noticed is when young people are 12, 13, 14, they kind of shun their family a little bit. And they go, right, I'm after having 14 years with them. Now let's go out and have a bit of adventure. And the jammy ones get into youth centres and go, I can be a mad cunt in a youth centre and hang out and probably learn the drums or do creative stuff or whatever. And I was thinking about that actually recently, because a parent said to me, my child hates me and they seem to love yous. What are we doing wrong? I said, you're not doing nothing wrong. The nature of humans is we love our parents up until a certain age, and then genetically something happens in our body where we go, I need to get out of here and spread me wings.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's that thing that you do go out, like I felt as a kid, like Sparky, for example, I remember years ago with yourself, when we were younger, like you'll be saying to me, like if I'm doing the youth centre, if I'd be in on a Wednesday and it was nothing to do with you weren't running that class, say it was a drop-in or something like that, you'd go out your way to say, are you still writing? Are you still doing this? It was like people had an interest in us, you know, and that's something that gave you that little bit of, I suppose, hope, you know, and I never realised any of that when I was a kid. I was just, I messed, and
you were a kid.
Never appreciated it as much when I was, but I always look back on them things and think to myself, I wouldn't be doing this for only for half of them. There's loads of things outside of music as well, like it could be general stuff like with our day-to-day life. I wouldn't be doing half of this because I've got help or guidance from somebody that at the time I thought to myself, they were just talking to me, and they probably thought I wasn't listening, but it turned out I did listen, and a lot of it I've kind of not done. I suppose there's a lot that I want to do, but there's a lot of stuff that I haven't done that I probably shouldn't have been, you know, doing.
I was thinking about when you were describing that other young fella, you know, your twin from the same flats at the same age who had similar options and opportunities. And is the difference that you were supported into the youth centre, or you made a choice, or what is the difference?
I think the difference was I was aware that you don't have to do drugs or sell drugs to be cool.
Did that other young fella not have the awareness?
I'm sure he had the awareness, but I think it was more cool for some. They thought it might have been cool to do that, and I didn't think it was cool to do that. I don't not that I'm not saying I'd ever do it, but I mean, like I don't look in the newspaper and think, Jesus, all these gangsters or celebrities. I want to look like them or do anything like that. I don't think it looks. You can be cool without doing that stuff, and that's a big part of it. You know, like I think for the road that I took, I could easily have done it. So could any of my friends have taken certain roads, but for me, I always realised that it's not for me, that lifestyle. And I think that there's a lot of people it's not for either, but they'll do it because it's a new. Years ago, when you're a kid, you look at footballers in the newspaper, you look at footballers online or wherever it was, you think, I want to be him when you're old. And you asked me years ago, what do you want to be? I'd say I'm a fucking fireman or wherever it is. But you ask kids nowadays what they want to be, and sure, why would you work when you can sell drugs and get these jackets with the badges on the side that cost €1,200, and you can do all this, and that's a cool lifestyle now. It's not a cool lifestyle. That's the perception I get. A funny little thing I was speaking to my brother about recently. Do you ever notice, like, you go into a pub or you go into anywhere, like, and wherever it is, there's maybe a local drug dealer or something like that, and everyone nods at them, you know, like, or someone, they walk by and you kind of give them a nod and, all right, how's it going, or whatever. And then you go outside and someone says, have you got any change? And you say, sorry, and you kind of say, people would say, like, he's a bit of a down and out, you know. Little do you realise the person that you were nodding at 2 minutes ago is probably the reason they're sitting there, you know. That's a sad part of reality, I think, personally, you know.
I think there's a huge culture around drugs. Okay, and we have to understand that people like drugs. People like taking drugs. On any night out in Dublin City, I'm sure there's a lot of people taking drugs, you know, from coke to ketamine, smoking crack, or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of people taking drugs. And that requires an organisation, you know, to do that. So there's people who are part of the organisation. It has to be a secret organisation because it's illegal. The young people from the flats who are trusted get groomed into that. It's always the ones who are not like you, you know, because I'm sure if somebody had have approached you and said, Ciarán, will you hold this? You'd have probably said no, you know what I mean? So there are some young people who they're at that stage where they're breaking away from their family, or they don't really have a family structure that they've been part of, and they have that wanting to belong thing, you know?
Yeah.
Fitting in, wanting to belong. And somebody says, there's a role, there's a job, off you go there, mate, and tap on the back and fair play to you. And not all the time do people get paid for that. Sometimes they're paid in a chicken fillet roll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of it has got to do with, here's somewhere I fit in. I fit in with these guys. Now, some of them, a lot of them end up in jail. They end up, you know, the Butsy or whatever it is, and they end up not making money, own the organisation money, all that kind of stuff, and they end up in a very, very shambolic life and end up sitting outside Lidl, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's a real part of it. Then there are others who grow into it, who grow into the organisation. They become soldiers in the organisations. They become lieutenants and captains and all that kind of stuff in the organisation, right? At some stage, they get sick of it.
Yeah.
You know, they get sick of...
I've chatted to a few of them, lads who are in the late 30s, early 40s, and I'm going, why are you still doing this? How are you still doing this? You have your own children. And they're like, we can't get out. We don't know how to get out. We've done this every day since we were 14.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and now my child is 14.
Yeah.
And this was my youth centre. It's kind of almost what they're saying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't have the options. Although the options and opportunities were there, I didn't have the support into it.
I think for nowadays, though, just what I was saying with the kids looking up to it, it's nearly a cool thing for...
It's cool as fucking Christmas.
It looks cool.
Drugs
for
are
the kids.
cool.
Yeah.
For a couple of months.
It's the material, the clothing and things like that. You know, you used to see celebrities wearing that, and now the kids are looking at it and saying, well, geez, you don't have to work really, and I know you're doing whatever, but you don't really have to go and do a 9 to 5, and you can still wear these jackets and wear these clothes and wear whatever.
If this was America, we would be fucking... It's like Jay-Z, there you go.
Yeah.
Jay-Z sold rock on the blocks.
Yeah.
And we wave fucking flags for those people.
Yeah.
We don't have that culture here.
No.
You know what I mean? That entrepreneur stuff.
Yeah.
But we definitely have the bit where those people get fucking, their lives get devastated. The majority that I've seen anyway, their lives get devastated. And short-term drugs are stunning. Drugs are amazing. Ketamine, fucking cocaine or whatever. It's all highs, it's all ups. But it's a short game. I think you caught on to that early. That's a short game, and I've got a longer game here I'm going to play, which is my creativity and my sanity and my mental health and my life.
Yeah. You get more from a guitar and standing on a stage than you'll ever get of any drug in your life. That's the part you can't explain.
That's easy to say now as a man. What age are you now?
27 now.
It's easy to say as a 27-year-old. You're fully emotionally developed.
Yeah, but when I was 17, I just gave it a go. Or when I was 16, or when I was 15, I tried it out, and I got that addiction, back then. And I always say about opening your eyes, the kids that are into the motorbikes and the horses and things like that, doesn't mean you have to sit around and act the bollocks or whatever. You can put that into something. You can go look into how can you be a motorbike driver if it's your interest. Sometimes it's just opening your eyes and having that confidence with things. And that's what when I was a kid, I got that feeling, that bite, that first thing that stage thing playing in front of people, you want to keep doing it. And I think if kids were to give things like that a go, and they had to, and I know they do, there's great space, especially around here as well, Ballymun, but there's great spaces and opportunities for kids to express themselves and get involved in things. But sometimes it's not cool to do that. And that's the difference. I think it's about
That's changing.
Yeah.
That's changing in the city because myself and Dean have noticed that a lot of the youth centres now, a lot of the young people are looking for nights, gig nights, and they're looking for open.
Brilliant.
And it's not only, a lot of it is covers. We ran one up in the Youth Project recently, and one young woman sang her own songs, but they all listened.
Brilliant,
and that was great.
I noticed that the other night, actually. I done a show with the Access, the open mic creative night they had, and it was the first open mic I think I've been to in a long time where I've seen everyone clued in for everything. There was no, the way years ago kids, like, you'd have 5 or 6 in the front, they'd be interested, there's always 2 or 3 that's laughing at you kind of in the corner, but you're blocking them out. None of that the other night. It was just listening and interest in it. That was great to see, and I know I'm sure there is like an interest in it coming, and there, I think for when I seen that the other night, I started to realise that the people that even singing their own songs, there was mistakes made. I made a mistake myself when I was playing, but there was no kind of like laugh or snigger and like that. You could see there was interest, and there was an older crowd as well, and a younger crowd. Which was mad.
There's definitely a leaning back towards bands. We go to these open mic nights, and the young people read the lyrics off their phone.
Yeah, I know.
I was watching this going, what is this about? Like, and I just had to lean into it, saying they're doing it.
Yeah,
they're into it. We did a songwriting thing there recently, and 2 of the bands wrote their own songs, and they're starting to do it more. You know? And I think there's definitely an interest about being on stage. And look, I love being on stage. Like, even in those open mic nights, I'd stand up and do the MC, and I wouldn't even ask permission.
Yeah,
here I go, And I think, I remember listening to David Gray one time, and he was saying his first experience of being on a stage was like 4 inches in the corner of a room, like, It was a 4, but when you went on to the stage, you were lifted, you were given this thing, There's a friend of ours who recently stopped drinking, and he has to go into pubs to play. I was saying, how the fuck do you do it, like, And he was like, the stage is like my safe space.
That's mad. That's mad.
And he was
especially because he's in a space, like the rest of the room is in a pub,
it's chaotic or wherever it is. Yeah. But when he's on the stage, he's okay because that's his. He owns that space. There's definitely a move towards that, like the way yous were into it. You know what I mean? So there was a big group of yous that was into it, and I had never seen that since, and now it's back.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So let's make it cool. Let's capitalise on it.
Yeah.
Let's promote it.
Absolutely.
Let's, from our end, talk to our funders and our bosses, and there's a big implementation board. They're going to be pumping money into Ballymun over the next 2 or 3 years.
Brilliant.
To kind of counter the drug gang culture. For some young fellas selling drugs, standing outside the Blade Centre is their stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe there might be a song in you about those 2 young fellas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
About that journey, about those options, about the reality of both of those. That's what I was thinking when you were saying it.
Yeah.
It's a fucking lovely moment there for you to go.
We had 2 separate paths, It's just a weird situation, and nothing against it in any way. I don't want to make it sound like, I'm doing all right.
Well, the likelihood of surviving the one that you're doing is higher. The likelihood of surviving the other one is lower.
Yeah.
That's really all I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Will this person have a life where they can survive, not hurt people, thrive, put good stuff into the world, rather than the opposite of that?
Yeah.
But how do we encourage people to take the road less travelled? I
think by example. I think if you have examples of people that have done it, like when I was a kid, and you'd know this, Sparky, in the inner city, like, can you name I didn't really have anyone that I could say I want to be exactly like him. You know, if I knew Damo at the time, I probably would have said, well, he's a bit of a common fella. He speaks like kind of not the way I do, but we speak similar. We probably have a similar tongue and that. And I think if you can, for what I do, I'm far from an advocate or trying to be political or anything and say I want to be the voice of people or anything like that. But I'd love to say to some kids that, look, you don't have to play guitar or be able to sing, but to some people I am cool from what I do with my guitar. There's some people, my friends, that say he's a cool young fella and I have the same buzz, I have the money, might not have it exactly the same time, but I'll get the money by what I'm doing or whatever work I do to wear them jackets if I want them jackets. I can do everything, I can do the same things without having to do that. And I think if you have examples of people that have done it, that is similar age, that understands, like when you're younger, you're looking at people that are famous, and when you say famous, like for example, it could be someone that's big, but you don't know whether they know what it's like to be standing in Henrietta Street with a load of cans in their hand. Whereas if I know what it's like to do that, if I have done that, but I've also said, no, I'm not into that, I'm going to actually have a buzz with this on the other side, I think a kid can say, well, he kind of done it. The same with podcasts, like the lads with the Talking Bollocks podcast. I think for kids to be able to see them and say, they know what it's like to be on a session, they know what it's like to probably be involved and do drugs over the years, but they know what it's like to not do it as well now because they're doing this, and now they're probably the coolest people around because they've given something else a chance, and now they have an example to say, well, look, they've done that, you know. I don't think I had an example. I might have having it that you might be familiar with, Sparky, yourself, but can't recall ever saying there was a fella from the inner city that had been writing songs and putting messages out and that. Not to say I'm the first person to ever do it, but far away from that. Just more that I can't recall ever saying I want to be like him, you know.
Well, I think Christy Dignam was a big. I remember you talking a lot about Christy, and I would have only been turned on to Aslan around that time, because what happened with me and Aslan was I was into punk, I was into, you know, mad punk music, and Aslan were playing around the place. I remember actually Christy, I think it was about 15, and Christy got us into a gig on Bolton Street.
Yeah.
And you know, said, no, they're 18, go on in. And they were saying to us, don't be messing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I remember you talking about Aslan and about Christy and how much you looked up to them, you know. And I remember there was another time, I think you supported Aslan.
Yeah.
And how much that meant to you.
Yeah, when I was a kid, you know the way like everyone has their first records and their mas lets them hear these albums, and they like families do all that. My family didn't do that. We didn't have all that. Not that we didn't have it to afford it. It was just not an interest in the family where you'd sit down and listen to a record player. My brother Keith, I remember he let me hear, they were supporting Aslan, the Point Depot in, I think it was 2000. And he let me hear Made in Dublin when I was about probably 11, 12 or something like that. I remember hearing Made in Dublin and that song, You Gotta Make It. I heard that and I was hooked on Aslan as a kid, and I always thought they were so far away. I didn't think they were as close as they were, if that makes sense. I thought they were like celebrity kind of miles away. I'd never meet them or anything like that. But they worked with my brother's band years ago, Christy did, and there was a bit of history there and that, and he was always kind of linked with the family then, with our family. As I looked at Christy growing up, I thought he's, you know, like I could never say I want to be like him, because I thought his voice was, me personally, I don't think there's ever been a voice like Christy's in Ireland. I think he's the best male, and possibly by past females, I mean, just my own opinion, vocalist the country has ever had by a country mile. And looking up to him going out to Vicar Street in a Celtic jacket, or going out to the Point Depot in like a pair of cargos with no top on, no shoes on, that was even more to me than hearing the voice. I used to think to myself, in a way, like that's not that he doesn't care, but he's just himself, you know, like that's the way he will be tomorrow, probably going to shops, probably in the same jacket. That gave me allowance though to realise he can do that kind of stuff as well. But he was definitely the biggest.
You got to play with him here in Ballymun outside the access.
You sent me pictures of it, yeah.
I'll stick a few pictures up. Ciarán probably was about 14.
Yeah.
And he has like a Beatles haircut.
Yeah. And I remember you say, I don't know whether it was yourself that said it to me, but they had to go early. So they were on before. I think I was on after them.
Yeah,
or
you were
like
on
that.
after.
There was
Christy
a joke
was
about
flying
it.
out.
Yeah.
It was a gig for the drug service here in Ballymun. Yeah. And Christy goes, I'll do it, but if I can get on and off the stage by 12 o'clock. Yeah. And I was going, it's not at night. And he goes, no, 12 noon. Yeah. And I said, okay. And then I got you and a few other acts to play, which is great.
Yeah. And then I hadn't played with them for years, and went back and I toured with them for about 2 years, like, and with regards to, like, they'd give me dates every probably one a month I'd be getting off them, and I've went over all of the country with, I think there's probably 3 or 4 counties I haven't been with them, to be honest with you. Learned so much from that. I learned more during them dates. Like, I learned how to control how I kind of present myself. I learned what songs not to do when you're in Monaghan and people want to hear Wagon Wheel when Hayden Carter. you don't do Mother, you know what I mean? People, I was up in Monaghan, they're doing that Cotton Eye Joe dance, and I'm singing a sad song, you know what I mean? And then I was up in Drogheda and some woman saying to me, can you sing a bit of Abbey, you know? And I'm saying, I'm don't do fucking I'm doing all original songs here, you know? And she's like, go on, do one Abbey, you'll get the crowd going, you know? And then you go into Vicar Street and then the crowd are in your hand for the set, you know? But yeah, Christy was major for me, like, as a kid, and my family as well. My brother would be a big fan of him, and it's just, there was something about him that I don't think will ever be replicated in Ireland again.
No,
you know?
absolutely not.
Yeah, and there's something about you that I don't think will ever be replicated in Ireland.
Hopefully not. Hopefully.
No, I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. Like, that song you sing, It's Okay. As I said a few minutes ago, that's going around the world for a reason. It's not going around the world just because I'm doing you a favour.
Yeah.
It's because me and Mark O'Connor, who made a film, went, what song will work here?
Yeah.
And we put Maverick Sabre, I Need, and we put Ciarán Moran, It's Okay.
Brilliant, yeah. Yeah,
So-
it's mental. Anything like that is, to me, is a bit kind of surreal, thinking that it'll even be in a film, you know, because...
Why?
Just, you don't expect that kind of stuff, Dean, and, you know... Look,
What do you expect?
I suppose what I've always expected, just small gigs.
Fuck off with your small time thinking.
I know, I used to...
You're world class, bro.
Yeah, I just... that's...
Without blowing smoke up your
No, I
hole,
know,
or
and I
without you
appreciate
getting a
that,
big
but
head.
You kind of... You have a thing and you always that... You can only go to a certain level, you know? Like, I always...
Let me know how you get on with that in 20 years' time.
Yeah, well,
Or fuck that out the window.
Yeah.
And go and travel the fucking world. Go and gig. Instead of gigging 3 times a bleeding month, gig 3 times a week.
Yeah.
You're well able to do it, brother.
Yeah.
And there is people out there who need those songs in their life.
Yeah. Thank
And yes, you could play Cotton Eye Joe for the next fucking 20 years. Or else you could just keep on writing cracker songs.
you. Yeah.
And playing them.
Just
And
avoid Monaghan.
What's the dip the tip or so? What's the tip?
Dip the tip.
Isn't there
Hit the
something?
dip.
Hit the
Hit the
dip.
dip, yeah.
It's like, what are they singing about? Like,
Dip the tip was after the gigs.
dip the tip.
That was behind the handball, Ali. But
Drop the hand and dip the tip.
Someone used to say in town, feed the pound.
here, give us another song, will you?
Yeah, I'll play. I might play as a little breakup song I wrote that I've never really played on a podcast before, if that's cool, and I think you might enjoy it. So it's called Over You. Are the flowers I never bought you still on your windowsill? Are the pictures I never painted, are they hanging in your room? I've been tortured by emotion, and it looks as if you're fine. Still I hold on to these feelings, and it's safe to say you tried. 'Cause I've been loved for so long, and I don't want this love anymore. I've been lost for so long over you. Are the boys you never talked to playing songs I made in school? Did you show them all our photographs, or did you cut out the ones of you? We've been smothered in a glass house, and thrown stones won't break us free. Still I gave it all when you were hurt. I was lost, and that was me. 'Cause I've been loved for so long, and I don't want this love anymore. I've been lost
for so long over you. Over you. 'Cause I've been loved for so long, and I don't want this love anymore. I've been lost for so long over you.
I haven't actually played that song on a live thing or anything yet, so it's nice with a piano. It has a nice little vibe with a piano.
Do you play the piano?
Yeah, a little bit, a tiny bit now. I'm starting to learn it, yeah.
I remember Dempsey showed us him playing the piano in his gaff one night the first time. Man, I was bawling my lamps out.
Yeah.
It was stunning, and then he got the confidence to do it in Vicar Street
Yeah.
for the first time. And it was a confidence thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I went to see his play and the Abbey.
He
That
played
was
the piano with that as well.
magical. That was unbelievable, that show. That kind of stuff is inspiring now, I have to say, that kind like that.
Yeah, the honesty, we'd know him, but he showed that bit to everyone else.
Yeah.
And you have to mind yourself in that, because I know like you do reply to people on Instagram and all the time. And you kind of have to mind yourself a little bit, because you can give too much of yourself sometimes. You talk to Christy more about that.
Yeah, you'd be afraid of the accessibility. Like you can make yourself a bit too accessible sometimes, and then you can say, "Oh, I don't want to be a bit of a, I don't want to look like I'm trying to be someone that I'm not by not replying or anything like that." But sometimes people have you all the time because you're constantly getting different people. Plus, you're getting praise a lot of the time, you know, which can mess with your head a bit, because you're getting people saying "well done" all the time, or keep going, and then the next day you're back to normality and you're getting told by your mates, "shut up, you prick," or something like that, you know what I mean? So you just, that whole world is, that's a world that there's a great organisation for any creatives. They're called Mind and Creative Minds, and they're over in the Guinness Enterprise Centre, but they do like free services for helping you with little things like counselling and all that for musicians. It's a free service, but that kind of thing can be, people having access to you all the time, especially when you're trying to work, you know, you're trying to give it a go, and then you're afraid if you don't reply that you don't want to come across as stubborn or arrogant, and then when you do reply, you're leading yourself into 3 days of messaging or 3 hours of messaging. So or 14
charity gigs a year that you didn't really want to do.
Yeah.
You don't have a pot to piss in, but you're so generous with your time.
You're just saying, to you don't want to come across.
You have to find the balance. That's the journey you're on.
It's good, a good team around it as well can help that. And I've been lucky in the last kind of while that I have decent people that I can kind of go to now and say, "What do you think of this?" or "What do you think of that?" You know. But good teams are important. That's a massive thing, because I'm a bit of a yes person. Like anything I'm asked, I'll say, "Yeah, of course, I'll do it. I'll do whatever you want me to kind of do." If someone asked me before about doing a gig for political party, would I go in and do it in the Tree Arena, and they were doing this conference thing. I think it was only a side of it or something, but there was a few hundred there. I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I'll go in and bang out a few songs." And I had a manager at the time who was like, "You won't, not a chance. Don't do anything like that. Nothing that, wherever your thoughts are, just don't get involved that with this." And little things like that, it's good that I have people that I'm able to go and say, "What do you think?" You know.
I was talking to Prowsey in Liverpool one time, and he was going on stage, you know. Just before he was going on stage, he just was like this. He was just texting, you know. I said, "Prowsey, who are you texting?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Loads of people text me and ask me what time I'm on stage at." And that was the level of replying that he was doing. That on his Facebook page, or on his messenger, he was replying, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, that's probably a necessity for him, like, you know what I mean? That, you know, that he wants people to come and see his gig, so they're texting him saying, "What time are you on at?" and that kind of stuff. But I was thinking, this is the time he should be tuning the guitar and getting his karma into gear, like, you know what I mean, and getting his, you know, his feng shui or whatever. But
feng shui.
That's something though that Sparky I took from years ago with Damo. Like before every show now, I'd spend about 10-15 minutes on my own, like where I just sit there and just think, like, what have you to go out here and do, kind of, you know. And I remember seeing Damo doing it. I think he was doing it with, he kind of went off into a different room. Now I'd be just kind of like put a hood up or something, and I'd sit there. Do you know what a big thing for shows is? The amount of people that message you on the day of a show and say, "I can't make it tonight," and you're thinking, yes, it just keeps you probably get 4 or 5 every show. You'll get maybe not on a big level, but on my level, I'd be thinking, "This room is going to be empty later on," and it's just you're buzzing for your show, and then you're getting brought back. And
I've probably been one of those people.
No, not at all. No, well, I know in your situation you'll be, if you're busy or whatever, but I mean people.
I think you have to give yourself a certain cut-off time. Just go right,
knock the phone off.
Whatever happens from now on that's just what's going to happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. People are going to turn up or not turn up. The gig is the centre of your universe. It's not the centre of anyone else's universe, really. And I've learned that because I'm recently off all social media. And I
Yeah.
thought my social media posts were the centre of the universe. And then I realised, just stop doing it for 6 months and you realise they're not.
Yeah.
And I'm in a much healthier position.
I was thinking of doing that, to be honest. I was thinking recently of going off, like deactivating me pages for a few months, just because I find myself still scrolling, you know, as you say, about like going on.
I would advise, if you can't do it,
Yeah, I was thinking about
be
doing
kind
it
to
just
yourself
for-
and give yourself that break.
You always have the fear that you're going to be forgotten about, you know, though, if you do it. And then I've seen people doing it. and I've
Nobody
thought to
cares,
myself,
Ciarán.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody cares. You
Yeah.
know, you care, and that's
Yeah.
all that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I am going to do it for a bit anyway, yeah.
Ciarán Moran, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a bit mad, that chat, probably
Was it?
compared to
Why?
what I used to. Just probably a bit different. I probably took her off in different ways, but nice
No,
one
it was
to see.
great.
Thanks
It
for
was
having
great.
me.
It was
Thank
you.
you.
That was
And
great.
hopefully I can extend you an invitation to the film festival
Oh, late.
to listen to your song in Amongst the Wolves,
Deadly.
and see the reaction on
Yeah.
your face when your song is being played.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I can't wait, man. Delighted. I still, that kind of stuff again just feels mad when you hear it, you know. I'm thinking, "Jeez, that's mad. I'm dying to see it now," you know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
get used to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Ciarán,
brother.
thanks for
guys.
coming
Thanks,
in. It was
Sparky,
deadly.
as well.
It was deadly.
Cheers. Thank
No,
you.
thanks.
Nice one.
Love you, bro.
Done. Love you too, dude. Appreciate it as well.
Here. Fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?
Do you know what was always deadly about the townies, right? You just used to go and buy runners out of pennies that were like £2, €2 or something.
Yeah.
Like that. They were like cloth.
Pumps.
Pumps, yeah.
Yeah. I used to get stick for them. Young fellas used to say to me, "Would you not just buy like one pair of runners to save you buying like you buy 5 pairs a week?"
They
And
were just like, why? And then people just throw them out.